Welcome back, and what a week it's been. Coming up in this week's episode, we have Jimmy Kimmel's back on air. He was off with it, but now he's back on. Trump cures autism. Does the Taliban want you to stop reading? And HMRC, can they tax you directly? All of that and more coming up on this week's... Welcome back to the show. My name's Adam Coumas, and you are listening to Adam Coumas Runs for Office. Today we've got a bunch of stories that have happened over the last week. So some of you might know, in the last week or so, we had Jimmy Kimmel was taken off the air. His show was cancelled, or he was fired. It seemed like after he made some comments about the assassination of Charlie Kirk, more relating towards Trump, actually, not necessarily about Charlie. But there was a reaction where it seems like the president had sort of put his hand and forced his show off the air. Obviously, if that is the case, that is wrong. It definitely seemed like the case. Again, not the biggest fan myself of Jimmy Kimmel or of his show. I don't think his show is very popular. But I think as soon as you start saying to people, you can't be on the air if you say things that we disagree with, that's a slippery slope, isn't it? And I think what we had here, we had a very weird scenario where people on the right were celebrating that his show was cancelled because he said some nasty things. But what that does is it sort of undoes the last 10 to 15 years when anyone was cancelled by the left, right? So I understand why the right is celebrating it. I don't agree with it because they feel downtrodden. They've probably felt like no agency in this culture war. But I think we have to say, if we are the freedom of speech people, if people on the right are supposed to be freedom of speech, we have to allow speech from people that we don't necessarily like. And that might be Jimmy Kimmel in this instance. So for me personally, as a comedian, as someone who talks for a living and makes money through talking, I can't hand on heart say that him being taken off the air was a good thing. I think it's absolutely abhorrent. But good news, everyone. It was released today that his show will be returning to ABC on Tuesday. Although some of the stations won't air it. Some of the ones who still want to kiss Trump's ass won't be doing that. But yeah, so all very good. One of the reasons why I didn't like the fact that Kimmel was taken off the air was because it almost took the wind out of the sails out of the Charlie Kirk murder. Everyone suddenly stopped talking about Charlie Kirk being assassinated, which is the terrible thing. And everyone started talking about Jimmy Kimmel. And I thought, do you know what? I don't know. It was negative. And do you know what? I'm glad Jimmy's coming back. His show's coming back. I won't be watching it, but it's good that he's coming back. But who's not coming back? Charlie Kirk. The guy's dead. So yeah, just stupid news all around. I hope that this isn't trends of things to come. Next story, we've got digital ID. So this is the story. Keir Starmer is set to unveil a digital ID scheme. So that sounds very fun, doesn't it? If you don't know what digital ID is, this is the idea that everybody who is a British citizen or has the right to work in the UK should have a digital ID. Now you might think, well, how does that? Is that just like a thing on your phone? It's essentially, it would be different from a physical ID. So something like a passport or an identification card that you can use to vote or a driving license. This would be a digital copy which could identify you anywhere you go. So this is very draconian and this is very dystopian. This seems like something that you would cut out of a Black Mirror episode. The idea that you could be walking down the street, and as we know, we've got facial recognition technology. I mean, the town that I live in Croydon, was one of the first towns in London to have permanent facial recognition technology installed on the street because it's such a rough area. It's so violent. They've just gone, do you know what? Rather than put more police on the streets, rather than maybe punish people for stealing or doing misdemeanors, things like that, we'll just put like mass surveillance everywhere. We'll just do that. I don't know how we're getting how we're letting people do this. Like the digital ID scheme. If you know a little bit about the history, Tony Blair famously tried to put in a similar scheme of compulsory IDs during the 2000s, but that didn't work. But they're saying, Keir Starmer and the Labour government are saying that if they were to introduce this scheme, which, by the way, it's probably worth noting, they didn't run. This wasn't in their manifesto. This wasn't something they were running on during the election last year. They weren't sort of campaigning, sort of saying, by the way, this is something we want to do. This is sort of seems to be very underhanded. And I think this is the reason why a lot of people are unsettled by this, because they think, well, you never mentioned this. Keir Starmer is saying if they were able to do this, it would help in all aspects of the economy, and including one of the hot topic issues, migration, particularly illegal migration. I don't know how they're going to do that. I don't know. I mean, to me, it makes sense how they'll get someone who pays tax, your average citizen, get them on record. I don't know how you're going to get someone on a boat, on an inflatable dinghy, getting them registered when you don't even know who they are. I don't think this is a good idea. I don't think digital IDs. And also, like, the idea of how dystopian is this? You'll be walking down the street, no matter, we already know that CCTVs everywhere. If somebody farts, you're going to have someone recording you probably on your phone. And then you have just the idea that not only are you being recorded on these CCTV cameras, the fact that they might, with AI, they might be able to identify who you are just by looking at your face, and they'll be automatically unlocked on a database somewhere. They'll go, do you know what, Adam, you said you went to Sainsbury's the other day, but actually you went to Lidl, you cheap piece of shit. We know this because we've got you tracked on here. No, to be in your defense, Adam, you did actually put your discounted items from Lidl into a Sainsbury's bag for life, so you could sort of raise your status a little bit. But we know, the government knows that you're a cheapskate. People who are supporting this, they're saying, well, apps and these technology giants like Apple and Google already have so much data on the individual, so why shouldn't the government have this? I think that's a false equivalency. I think it's a silly thing to say. First of all, you don't need to use these services, to be honest. You don't need to sign up to some of these services on Google and via Apple. I don't. And also, if you don't want to use that, you and also, you don't really need it for essential services. You don't need a digital ID to pay your taxes or to travel or to get healthcare. You don't need that. So I think it's a bit of a false equivalency. And also, very important to note, supposedly, with these companies such as Apple and Google, they have a good idea of who you are, but they don't. It is anonymized to an extent. They're only doing it for ads. And to an extent, it is limited, so they can't actually pin that it's 100% you. Whereas this digital ID scheme, of course, would go one step further and pin you dead to rights. I'm not a big fan of this at all. And this ties in nicely with the online safety ban. So anyone viewing content which is deemed unacceptable, they'll know exactly who you are with the digital face ID. I mean, it might get to a point where they just get your phone. So when you do your face ID with digital unlock, they might have they might go in through the back as a jailbreak and just be like, do you know what? We know exactly where you're walking, what you're looking at. If you are watching pornography, what porn you're watching. They'll know everything about you. And famously, the UK government is not the best at keeping data private as well. So this is very dystopian. Also, if they are going to be doing that, they are going to be recognizing your face. How good is that technology? You know, if people getting Botox and lip fillers or facial reconstructive surgery, are they just let off the hook? I mean, what about people like Simon Cowell? That guy's fucked up his face. Does he get a free pass just because he gets his lips tucked and his eyes readjusted every 2 minutes? Anyway, I don't like this. I think it's dystopian. Let me know what you think if you are clued into this. Just when you think our country is maybe going to hell, we can always rely on the Middle East to do something worse. Because I always think, okay, maybe, this sounds pretty dystopian, but the Middle East, they have us unmatched. A news reported today that in Afghanistan, the Taliban, do you remember them? Do you remember the Taliban? They are banning books written by women in all Afghan universities. Wow. This obviously comes, I like that. So this obviously comes after they've also stopped women from doing any sort of education after 6th grade, I believe it is. And they've also banned, this is previously, no teaching of human rights and sexual harassment. So you can't let that. In the West, we have the opposite, where not only are we taught, quite rightly, about human rights and sexual harassment, but we're also taught about microaggressions, which is the extreme opposite. And the Taliban's going, do you know what? No, we're not even going to tell you what sexual harassment is. In fact, you don't have the deserved. This is ridiculous, isn't it? Look, I'm not a fan of this. It is their own country. They can kind of do what they want, but it is concerning. I'm concerned. Why are women being forced not to learn? I don't know. They're covering up. They're not allowed to educate themselves. And now they're not allowed to, they're not even allowed to write books. And any books that have been written have been taken out of the Afghan system. Just erase women. Just make them purely objects. I know in the West we have this problem where everyone with a nose ring and a blue hair just goes, oh my God, the patriarchy. This seems way worse. Like, this is actually what a patriarchy looks like in Afghanistan. Like, over here, I think we're doing all right. We're not perfect, but we're doing okay. Yeah, so I don't know what the Taliban's doing over there. I mean, look, it's there was a brief period where they weren't there. Look, I'm sorry. I feel sorry for the women in Afghanistan. Next news. I think it was today actually. We're recording this on Tuesday. Trump has suggested, or he's got a cure for autism. He's saying that there's a link between Tylenol and autism, and this is particularly. There's a correlation, particularly amongst pregnant women. So now, just quickly, Tylenol is a branded product which is for acetaminophen, I think it's pronounced, acetaminophen. In the UK, we call it paracetamol. I think the rest of the world maybe calls it paracetamol, but in America, paracetamol is called acetaminophen. And this particular brand, Tylenol, I guess it's a popular brand, he's saying that there's a causation, or there's a link towards taking this when you're pregnant, and autism in children. Now, apparently there's a couple of studies which have very weak, tenuous links, saying that this could be possible, but for every article saying, or every study saying there is one, there is apparently lots more information saying there isn't a link. So then this is ridiculous. I mean, look, I think pregnant women have it hard enough as it is. I don't know, like I'm not a pregnant woman, but I've every time you pick up anything in the supermarket, it always says you can't have this if you're pregnant. I don't think they can even have smoothies. Like, pregnant women are already like told they can't have anything, and now paracetamol. If you are feeling pain because maybe your feet are swelling, you've got headaches, you've got nausea, all this sort of stuff, don't take it because you're going to give your child autism. I don't know. I mean, if I was a pregnant woman and I believed this, I'd be popping paracetamol or Tylenol every fucking day. Because you know what? Like, some of the billionaires, some of the the wealthiest people in the world, they're all autistic. I mean, look, take a look. Who have we got? Elon Musk, complete autist. Bill Gates, definitely autistic. Jeff Bezos, come on, yeah. Mark Zuckerberg, I mean, the list goes on. In fact, I would argue, if you are a pregnant mother and you are not taking Tylenol, I think you are doing your child a disservice. You want them to be heavily autistic so they can work out and end up becoming super rich billionaires. Oh, okay. And this is the state that we're in as well. Like, the world's so messed up at the moment. No one trusts anything. We don't trust scientists. We don't trust politicians. Well, I guess rightly we don't trust politicians. We also don't trust any news articles, because some news articles be saying there is, some say there isn't. Everyone's become their own mini experts. There's no established body that we trust now, and we know there's certain medical bodies don't always have our best interest in heart. Take the OxyContin scandal, for example, where it was classified as a good thing, and it was essentially an opioid. They were saying it wasn't addictive. It was not addictive, and yet OxyContin it sparked this huge rage, and there was basically bribes going on, and that was the reason why it happened. So nobody trusts anybody. Everybody's sort of in their own internet bubble now. Everyone's googling their own little thing. It's a sad state of affairs. But anyway, bottom line is, if you are pregnant, take paracetamol. You want your kid to be autistic, because everyone's autistic now anyway, so it doesn't really matter. In slight light-hearted news, speaking of autistic people, Jeff Bezos, one of his companies, or one of his subsidiaries, Amazon Fresh in the UK, is set to close 19 or all of its stores in the UK. Do you remember Amazon Fresh? I don't think I've ever been in there. I think I've been in there once to pick up like an Amazon delivery because you can get stuff there, but I've never went in to shop for things. It was this new revolutionary. It only appeared like 4 years ago, but it was this new revolutionary thing where you could go in there with your phone. I think you had to set up an app or something, and then you'd basically, in theory, you'd pick items off the shelf, and they were saying it was all powered by AI and computers, and you take it off the shelf, and you'd be able to walk out, and then you'd look at your phone, it would be your bill would automatically be taken away from you. That's what they were saying. They were saying that was the thing. Now, I don't know about you guys, but we've been doing that in the UK for a little while. You know, we have people walking into stores like Tesco and Sainsbury's and Lidl and just walking out after taking things off the shelf and not paying for it. We do that across the UK. So this is, I don't know what Amazon was trying to do here. They were just like, we've got a huge stealing problem in the UK. I don't know why Amazon were trying to monetize that. But yeah, apparently they're going to shut it all down. Oh, also, I don't know if you remember this. There was an interesting article where it said all the AI and magic robots, it wasn't actually happening. It was all basically a bunch of guys in India just watching through cameras and manually clicking stuff. It was that Wizard of Oz sort of beep boop hiding under the cardboard robot. So yeah, that's anyway. They're closing down. Good for them. Good for them, Amazon. I'm glad you're closing down. Supposedly, some of them might be becoming Whole Foods, so they're becoming poncy middle class stores, which is good. In other news, we have what else have we got here? Oh yes, HMRC. Beloved HMRC. Are using new powers to raid taxpayers' bank accounts directly. Well, that's good, isn't it? I really like this. So this debt collection will target those who owe more than £1,000. Well, this is nice. I think this is good. Tax inspectors have already started raiding. They've already started raiding accounts of those who choose not to pay their bills, and HM Revenue or Customs has admitted. And they are currently testing. This is currently in the beta phase. This is currently the beta phase. If you haven't paid the right amount of tax, don't worry. We're just going to take it directly from your bank account. We'll take it from your ISA. Doesn't matter. We'll take it directly from you. I like that. Because when it comes to any sort of benefits that you might be entitled to, that's not going to go directly to you. You have to apply for those. You have to apply for... Oh, you want your child benefit. Oh, you've got your universal credit, basic income. No. You need to go through forms of that. That needs to go forms and forms. Oh, but you owe us money. Yeah, no, we'll just take that. We've got the we've got the systems in place to directly take it from you, mate. This is good. This is what else have they got here? Oh yes, and this is if there's never been a stronger case for people to move away from fiat currency and go towards Bitcoin or anonymous things. I mean, this is the strongest argument. I mean, I'm trying to get paid from I just did some gigs recently in Ireland, and just to get some money sent over, I had to give them an IBAN, and they're going to send it over and everything else, and I think that's going to take several days. I don't know, because they're going to go through it with a fine-tooth comb and look over it with a magnifying glass. Already, that's not instant, and that's ridiculous. So, this is the strongest case for everyone moving to some sort of cryptocurrency. If HMRC are going to go directly into your account and take your money. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you shouldn't be paying taxes. I pay taxes. I think we should be paying taxes. But let's not ignore a lot of people in this country are not happy with where their taxes are going, because we are paying what it feels like to be some of the highest taxes ever. And we're looking around and we're saying, right, the NHS is on its knees. The NHS has been on its knees forever. In fact, I mean, I'm 33 years old. I can't remember a time when I wasn't hearing that the NHS was on its knees. Did it ever have feats? I don't know. The NHS has been on its knees since I can remember. If you are old enough to remember when the NHS wasn't on its knees, let me know. NHS is on its knees. What else? We've got, again, I'm in Croydon. The council has gone bankrupt, I think, 4 or 5 times since 2020. I don't know what they're doing there. Council tax is higher than ever. Bin collections aren't happening in other parts of the country. A lot of our houses aren't safe with all the cladding. And again, that's happened to my block. We've got potholes all over the shop. Like, people aren't seeing their taxes spent in ways that benefit them. Like, schools famously built in the UK, famously built on insecure structures with, like, concrete that could crumble. I'm going to have to find the article and I'll put it up here. So I guess people aren't... it's not that people don't want to pay taxes. I think people are just thinking that they're paying so much in taxes, and they're not seeing the benefits of it. And you're looking at some of like basic public services, like getting the train. I did a gig the other day up to Leicester, and I did Birmingham, and I drove, right? Because I didn't want to pay extortionate train fares, because for some reason train journeys in this country are fucking expensive. They're so mad. They're mad. So I don't know. And you know, you might think, okay, well, maybe we've got our basics right. You know, like electricity. Nope. Some of the highest in the world. In fact, I think when it comes to industrial electricity or electricity used for business, I believe the UK we have some of the highest in the world. And you think, okay, well that's not great. Poor, you know, Great Britain paying the most in the world to run a business for industrial stuff. I mean, that can't be good for business, can it? Okay, well, how about water? Waters must be good. Maybe we've got a handle on water. You know, getting, you know, the Roman Empire putting in water in our country. Like we've had water. Like maybe we've got a handle on that. Nope. Famously, in the last couple of years, we've had huge problems, especially with Thames water. So much so that sewage is going into our rivers and our streams and polluting everything. They haven't been maintaining any of the structure, and yet the guys at the top, the fat cats, they've been getting huge bonuses and tax breaks. So I guess people are just pissed off. They're pissed off because none of their money that they're paying is going towards quality of life. You know, nothing's going well. But good. I'm glad they've managed to get. They're taking money directly from our bank accounts. That's good. That can only seem like a good thing. Speaking of taking money from bank accounts, Rachel Reeves has also been advised by a think tank called the Resolution Foundation to hit drivers with a pay per mile tax. So this is great. She's been advised by this think tank, the Resolution Foundation, to hit drivers by a pay per mile tax. Now, this is because there's an increasing move to electronic cars. So what they're doing here is saying, right, we're losing out on fuel duty every year as people switch to electronic cars. We need to start charging people for how much they drive their vehicles. To me, that's fucking insane. That is insane. They're thinking of charging as much as between 3 to 9 pence initially per mile, and that will depend on the vehicles. So if you're driving a heavy vehicle or a lorry and stuff, you might pay more due to the wear and tear on the road. This is, it's so exhausting. So we could be very much looking at a future where you get in your car, right? So you buy a car, you pay VAT on the car, you're paying tax. You pay an annual tax already, but in addition to that, you're then paid per mile as you drive. And you might think, oh, well, how are they going to do that? Well, we've just had ULEZ installed, haven't we? We've had ULEZ all around London, the Greater London area with ULEZ. So they've got the cameras, they've got the infrastructure. They can't. It would be unwise of them just to use it for ULEZ. There must be some other revenues going on. So imagine this: you're sitting in your car, you're driving. You've topped it up with electricity with some of the highest prices in the world just to drive. You're then driven. You're driving and you're being charged per mile, and you can't escape it because you've got this digital ID scanning your face. So anywhere you drive, they know exactly who you are. They know exactly where you're driving. Oh, and they can, and if you forget to pay, don't worry. With HMRC, they can take the money directly out of your bank account. This is fantastic. Although saying all that, I still think it's worse to be a woman in Afghanistan because you're not allowed to read. Anyway, that's the end of the episode. That's the end of this week's Adam Coumas Runs for Office. We'll see you again next week. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye.